This was May Day in Lisbon, 1 week after the regime of Marcelo Caetano was destroyed in a military coup. An infectiously happy people celebrated the restoration of freedoms taken from them almost 50 years ago. "200,000 people took to the streets, strewing red carnations and dancing with the troops. A blaring chorus of car horns clashed with the chant, 'A united people will never be defeated.' Censorship was at an end, freedom of speech restored, elections promised, and most important of all, the end of Portugal's colonial wars in Africa seemed at last to be an attainable goal." How did you know whether everybody in the army agreed with you?
Well, we had some signs in the radio.
Secret messages?
Yes.
Two
songs.
2 songs? Tell me about it. How did this work?
Well, at about 50 minutes past 11 of the 25.
Of the 25th of April?
One song in the radio.
What was the song called?
Goodbye. And after that, after midnight, another song, Grandula.
I was on duty about 2:30 in the morning when I saw big going on the place, you know, cars, officers running, soldiers getting ready with guns and everything, you know, and we expected that something was happening very big, you know. Then about 4 or 5 in the morning we knew this through the radio that the General Spinola had taken over the Portuguese government.
What sort of welcome did the soldiers get in the streets from the people?
The relations between the people and the soldiers are magnificent. People is always carrying food, drinks, flowers to the soldiers. I think you can see that.
Yeah, flowers in his buttonhole. What can you do now that you could not do last week?
Well, I can exactly say what I think and do what I want to do with no fear of the authorities, the secret police.
What about the ordinary soldiers like yourself? How do they feel about this?
Well, most of us, our opinion is that this has been a good thing for us, especially what is concerned about the military service in Africa.
The group that has taken power is composed by fairly young officers of the army, that is from major and captain down. Those were the people who have been in the wars overseas. Those were the people that saw that our men were not only dying of a guerrilla war, as the people were in Vietnam, and I saw that myself in Guinea, where I was in November. They're dying of lack of material. I mean...
It's a grim place from the outside. Inside, the deprivation is almost total. More often than not, the offence leading to imprisonment here was membership of a political group, an illegal act in itself, except during 1 month before elections. The coup came as a bolt from the blue. There was no time to conceal anything, to fight, or even to attempt to destroy the place. In the maze of rooms, the Navy found yards of banned books stacked floor to ceiling, a black museum of supposedly subversive posters. Up on the 3rd floor was a vast room containing endless files, reports and dossiers, all meticulously up to date, on thousands of Portuguese people. Can you explain to me what all this is here, and all these ashes?
This is the place where they are put fire on the papers, the principal papers.
What papers were these?
The papers that are more secret.
Secret papers from the files.
Yes.
When did this happen?
In the last minute.
Where they saw that they are lost, they burned
when the
more secret papers.
The Navy arrived, they put fire on the...
Oh, the Navy arrived here?
Yes.
And then they started burning them?
Yes.
I see. Are there any bits of files you can see in there? Anything to show us?
It's very difficult, and now you have no... Yes.
Dossiers,
yes.
Extensive broadcasting and telephone tapping equipment was found in the roof. The place is so vast that rooms were still being forced open even as we filmed. One, apparently a photographic office, contained rockets, mortars, guns and rifles, ammunition, grenades and explosives. A DGS agent who is caught can expect to end up here at Caxias, rubbing shoulders with his colleagues in cells that jubilant socialists, writers and dissenters quit only days before. Outside, the wives of the agents and their children are treated coolly by the Navy. Communication with the internees is only by letter. The contrasts are extreme, and they're particularly poignant.
Deixa-me ver. Maçãs, pasta para a barba, pasta para lavar os dentes, toma lá, pasta para lavar os dentes. Pasta.
Já diz aqui no padrinho o que vai.
Lavar.
É duplicado.
José Pires is the founder of the Writers' Union. Until a week ago, it was an illegal organization.
I'm 48, and I was born right in the same year when Salazar took the power. And I've never seen liberty, freedom in my country. It's the first time, and that's why you understand that I'm a bit...
Is the Spínola regime going to live up to its promises?
You mean if we are in fact free under Spínola regime? Of course, we have some. I have my hope. I'm almost sure because we cannot talk about really Spínola regime because this is a provisional situation, and this is, as you see, the people here, all the people is against the old regime. So he has to himself, Spínola, he has to follow more or less the people's opinion and people's will.
On Sunday, the will of the people made itself evident. After 5 years of exile in Paris, law professor Mário Soares, leader of the Portuguese Socialist Party, returned home. $10,000 people filled the Praça do Rocio Square.
Organizar a democracia e pôr fim à guerra colonial. É indispensável que saibamos manter a ordem, porque os desordeiros são os fascistas. Vai assumar neste momento a esta varanda a viúva e a filha do general Humberto Delgado.
He was joined on the balcony by the widow of General Humberto Delgado, a would-be opponent of the old regime who was found murdered in 1966.
Camaradas, viva a República! Viva o socialismo! Viva Portugal!
Suarez's return would have been impossible, the welcoming crowd would have been illegal, and reporting it on television would have been out of the question. That's the measure of the changes in the last week. A week ago tonight, the censor packed his red pencil and left this newsroom of Portuguese television. Soldiers still mount a heavy guard on the studios, but there's editorial freedom.
Olá, meus amigos, boa tarde. Vamos hoje, e para começar, a ver mais uma aventura do nosso já conhecido Sr. Bern.
Expresso is Portugal's youngest and fastest growing Sunday paper. This is the front page of the last edition before the coup. Whole stories deleted, headlines half deleted to reverse the meaning, sentences cut, even whole pages red penciled. Editor Francisco Balsimao.
The first time I wrote something without having to think about the censorship was last Friday. We go to Press Friday night, the editorial. You know, it's very thrilling. You cannot imagine how thrilling it is to there and you not have to think this word they don't like, we cannot use, and let's put another one. And for the first time I was writing as I felt, what I wanted, and that's very important. By now, I do believe the intentions of the military who have the power are pure. And are real. As you know, there is a program which they have published, which has been published in all newspapers. That program assures no censorship in the press. And by now, I do believe that's what they want.
So far, although the sense of freedom has been infectious and its expression noisy, there's been no violence. The first test for the people and the new regime came yesterday, which was officially declared a public holiday. Fears had been widely expressed that extreme right and extreme left-wing groups would try to bring about a confrontation between the army and the people. In the event, the largest mass demonstration in Portugal for half a century was an exercise in sheer exuberance. The warmth of the occasion belied the fact that problems remain to be confronted, especially that of the African colonies. Is there a policy yet?
Well, General Spina yesterday in his meeting with the press people, with the editors, he was very clear. He spoke about the plebiscite. And he said that the date for that plebiscite will be established in a very short time. General Spindler and other people believe that the plebiscite will be favorable to Portugal.
And the result will be what?
The idea in General Spindler's book is a federation. And he believes that they would prefer a federation than to be independent.
If the democratic forces in Portugal can help we can use this word, help Spínola and the other members of junta to find the correct solution for the colonial problem, evidently the war will be stopped. If not, we shall continue our fight.
Have you any reservations, any worries about the new regime?
You know, for the moment I can't have any reservation because everything is running so well that I can't envisage any reservation because you know, everything depends on the new ministry, the new board of ministers, and so many things. We are for the moment we are so hopeful that it's a necessary. I mean, I think to think on these things, you know.
In Portugal's first week of freedom, it is time only to rejoice. The body of the latest hero in Portuguese history is brought back to the Lisbon barracks where he was killed last week, the only death in an attempted right-wing coup. The coup itself was a miserable failure. It succeeded only in driving Portugal even further to the left. Portuguese people were quick to pay tribute to the unlikely hero, Private Carvalho Luís, the army's first casualty in 11 months of the revolution which put an end to 50 years of right-wing dictatorship. Throughout, the red carnation has been the symbol of the armed forces movement, the MFA. The people and the army express their solidarity in flowers. For nearly a year, aware that the right wing might try to regain control, the armed forces have remained on the alert, led by COPCON, the elite security force. But when the right-wing coup came, it was pathetically inadequate. 2 antique training aircraft shot up the barracks of a left-wing artillery regiment, and helicopters landed a handful of paratroops to take control. Within a few hours, they had withdrawn in confusion. The casualties, 18 wounded, an officer's Volkswagen rocketed, Private Luís dead. The failed revolt shattered the right-of-centre parties in Portugal. Their hero, former President Spínola, fled to South America discredited. Left-wing officers in the MFA have used the coup to strengthen their position, to the dismay of moderate political leaders. Álvaro Cunhal, government minister and Communist Party leader, was not surprised by the attempted coup.
Semana passada. Naturalmente, esperávamos golpe de Estado, não podíamos dizer se era a semana passada, mas certamente o esperávamos. Havia toda uma preparação política para esse golpe e havia uma conspiração de que se conheciam numerosos indícios. Portanto, era previsível, estava previsto, a data não se sabia.
It was perfectly, everybody was expecting actually a coup d'etat because there was a political conspiracy in that respect, but of course it was completely impossible to foresee the date.
Although the date was unforeseeable, the left was well prepared. When the move came, random military checkpoints appeared within hours. On potential escape routes to Spain, self-appointed vigilante patrols, often with Communist Party armbands, mounted roadblocks, although the border remained officially open. Wanted lists of names and car numbers were immediately circulated. In Lisbon itself, new posters suddenly appeared, proclaiming that Portugal's 14 banks were now the property of the people. Many staff and all customers queued on the pavement and the doors remained closed. Inside, on the afternoon of the coup, bankers found themselves arrested by armed members of their own staff. It It wasn't until 3 days later that the government formally announced nationalization of the banks. The news spread in the normal way through leaflets, announcing that compensation for anyone holding stock worth £10,000 or more would be nil. The bankers themselves were hustled into Portugal's most notorious jail at Caxias outside Lisbon, 12 to a cell. There they found themselves alongside the secret police agents who had been arrested during last April's revolution.
Quem pode ter receio do Partido Comunista Português? Quem tenha receio de perder privilégios injustos? Mais ninguém.
Who could ever fear the Communist Party? Whoever could fear to lose any kind of privileges?
Injustos.
Unfair privileges.
Quer dizer, quem tenha receio de perder privilégios, situações de abuso, é que pode recear partido.
Only who fears to lose privileges and favors can in any way feel fear of the political party. Of the Communist Party.
So you agree with the bankers being put in Caxias?
Os banqueiros certamente não estarão muito contentes com o Partido Comunista.
For sure that the bankers cannot be very happy with the Communist Party.
Mas o nosso povo não estava contente com os banqueiros.
But our people, the Portuguese people, was not happy with the bankers.
Mas a ligação entre banqueiros e reação é visível.
But the connection between bankers and reaction is obvious.
Alguns banqueiros, digamos.
Some bankers.
Os banqueiros jogaram no regresso ao passado fascista.
The bankers wanted and jogaram. They played
no regresso ao passado
on the
fascista.
return of the fascists.
Perderam a parada.
They lost the play.
Pagam o preço.
Are you saying?
They have to pay a price for it.
Do you think that there is still a position for political moderate people? Are their voices being heard?
Well, you talk about moderate people, but moderate it's a very ambiguous word. If you mean by moderate a reactionary one, of course it is not allowed.
No, I don't mean reactionary.
If you mean for moderate, well, let us say.
I mean social democrats, for instance.
Yes, of course, they will have a voice.
Their leader, Mário Soares, was made foreign minister when, like the communist leader Cunhal, he was included in the provisional government set up by the army last May. But for all the crowd's acclaim, the man who was idolized on his return from exile in Paris a year ago is in a precarious political position. His party wants unity of the left, but for socialism, not communism. You have on your desk a list of car numbers. What is that list?
It is a list furnished, I think, by the military authorities to inform the parties that these cars carry some people, some dangerous people, some reactionary people who can kill someone.
You expect to be shot from one of those cars?
We don't expect, but we think it's possible that these people can do something against our party and other parties, and the left parties.
Should the MFA not hand back to the people the power to run their own country the way they want?
Não acha que o MFA deveria devolver ao povo a liberdade para se poderem governar, autogovernarem sem existência de Deus?
O MFA pertence ao povo.
The MFA belongs to the people.
Não é contra o povo, é uma emanação do próprio povo.
The MFA is not against the people. They come from the people.
But the people have no say in who represents them on the Revolutionary Council.
Mas o povo não tem qualquer qualquer palavra.
Tem uma grande palavra a dizer, porque no dia em que o nosso povo não queira os militares não ficam.
The Portuguese people has actually a big work to say, because on the day that they don't want the MFA any longer, they just won't have them.
You just said that if people did not want the armed forces movement, it could be removed. How could people do that?
Que o MFA ficava no ar.
That the MFA would stay up in the air.
Sem suporte.
Without support.
What I want to know is the political colour of the army at this moment, of the armed forces movement.
The political colour. Well, I would say it is a very socialist, but not exactly the socialist color that is represented by the Socialist Party in Portugal. So the target would be something like between the Communist Party, the Portuguese Communist Party, and the socialism. And the Portuguese Socialist Party, not exactly that.
But somewhere between the two?
Yes, somewhere between the two.
The Portuguese communists may still be learning the International, but in the last 12 months they've dominated the country's politics, as they have its streets. The party faithful have no reason to doubt that they and the armed forces movement are marching in step. An enigmatic situation for an important member of an anti-communist alliance, NATO. The communists celebrate with unashamed arrogance their enormous power in high places. What percentage of the vote do you expect the Communist Party to get?
Não sabe. Dr. Cunhalo understood and say, I don't know at all.
I know, he understands everything I'm
saying. Não pode haver sondagens de opinião, sondagens com o mínimo de seriedade nas condições atuais de Portugal não pode haver.
There is no possibility of making a research of the public opinion for the moment in Portugal.
Vamos a ver.
We'll wait and see.
It's about a year since I last interviewed you.
I remember that very well.
You were looking to the future, full of enthusiasm and hope for the new democracy which had arrived after 50 years. How do you feel now, 12 months later?
Well, I'm still looking to the future with hope, but it's much more difficult to build a democracy than I expected.
At midnight last night, the promised election was postponed to the last day possible within the pledge of the armed forces movement. It remains to be seen whether that free election will take place at all. Saturday evening in the centre of Lisbon, Mário Soares, the Socialist Party leader who quit the coalition government a week earlier, addresses 100,000 supporters at a rally which signalled the start of a new phase in Portugal's 15-month-old revolution. The Carnations of April 1974 are dead. In their place, bitterness. Alongside the old slogan, "Down with reactionaries," a new chant, "We are not afraid." Hours after the meeting began, people were still arriving, having walked the 3 miles from the roadblocks to explain with emotion how they'd been ambushed.
Foram atacados de diversas maneiras.
Our people have been attacked at the barricades with Molotov cocktails, claimed Soares.
Molotovs para cima! Nós ajustaremos contas com esses energúmenos.
We'll settle our score with the communist hooligans.
Esses soldados acabam de dar com esse ato
Those soldiers have taught a lesson to certain officers who have suddenly risen from captain to general. This first open attack on the armed forces movement was enthusiastically welcomed. So was his call for a new prime minister, above party politics, able to form a new coalition government. The crowd chants in response, "Watch out, communists, we're ready to fight." Although the revolution of April 1974 was bloodless, bringing the Portuguese freedom of speech and political expression for the first time in half a century, in the seething political atmosphere, those very freedoms have cost half a dozen lives in the last week, all of them outside Lisbon. Here at Caldas de Rainha, in a political quarrel, a 52-year-old man was stabbed through the heart on Sunday. For the hundreds of mourners, it was as much a political march as a burial ceremony. The coffin bore the colours of the PPD, the moderate Social Democratic Party, which ran second to the Socialist Party in the recent national elections, elections denounced by the Communists, who ran a distant third. As the gravediggers completed their work, fistfights were already breaking out in the town centre. 30 miles to the north, in the provincial capital of Leiria, the PPD, whose stabbed friend was buried earlier in the day, held a rally. They chanted their solidarity and then stood in silence in his memory.
Este vosso minuto de silêncio é minuto.
The dead man, explained the local PPD member of the National Assembly, had died in the cause of liberty.
Não só os do nosso partido, mas todos aqueles que acreditam que a palavra liberdade tem sentido.
Down with communism, responded the crowd. And then, long live free Portugal and social democracy.
Viva o socialismo construído pela via social democrática! Viva o povo de Leiria!
Even as they chanted, the most significant anti-communist move since the revolution had already drawn the army to Alcobaça, 20 miles to the southwest. It began at midday when a crowd of several hundred occupied the town hall and informed the communist mayor that he was unelected, did not represent their views and should quit. Why don't the people want him here? The mayor explains, because I represent the Communist Party. That's the only thing they blame me for. I have nothing to complain about, although at the start it was a bit rough, which is natural. But I'm not attacked because of my professional work, because there I cannot be attacked. And I've never made any use of my party position while in the town hall at the service of the people. Having purged the mayor, the crowd turned their attention to any communist supporters they could find. A running search of the town's streets revealed a terrified youth armed with a starting pistol. The businesslike but amiable mood of the town hall occupation now became increasingly violent, and the soldiers from the garrison who'd arrived from Leiria only as a token presence found themselves trying to prevent physical violence. the young communist was led to the town hall and held under guard for his own safety. For the frustrated crowd, it was a critical moment. They turned their anger on the Communist Party headquarters, 2 floors above a chemist's shop in the town square, while more bewildered soldiers did their best to defend the 15 communists inside. The officers' appeals for silence were howled down by the crowd. For soldiers and people, it was a new experience. The much paraded unity between them was trampled underfoot. The officer gave up. For an hour or so, there was a stalemate. Increasingly, the edgy soldiers became drawn into angry discussions. As the crowd refused to disperse, tear gas canisters appeared. The first man to break the army's cordon was a youth who crossed 3 rooftops with a homemade noose to destroy the red flag. Resenting this snub to their authority, the army set off to arrest the youth. The crowd was incensed. Spat upon, jostled and insulted, a young soldier fired into the air, and others followed suit. But the crowd's determination remained. 2 truckloads of troops, more guns and tear gas were called in, and for a time the tension eased. Police stood and watched as the army tried to explain the problem to them. Torn between good tactics and good crowd relations, 2 captains tried to talk their way out of the corner they were in. They failed. To win the crowd, the soldiers displayed illegal arms found in the communist headquarters and went on to empty the building of guns and ammunition. But to the crowd, it was all the more reason to destroy the office and the people in it. The soldiers, by defending them, had become traitors. Only by barring half the street with trucks did the army eventually release the 15 trapped communists to be driven away in a hail of threats and insults. But the violence was just beginning. By 11 o'clock, the soldiers were exhausted in defense of their own shattered officers. Glazed with bewilderment and weeping from their own tear gas, they fended off as best they could the relentless pressure from the crowd, the people, their erstwhile comrades in the building of the new democracy. By 11:30, the crowd smelt capitulation. The officer in charge hid in a shop, as much a prisoner as the communists he was seeking to protect.
The captain in charge of this operation here has now climbed onto the lorry to be between his troops and away from this crowd, which shows no sign of dispersing. The air is full of tear gas. People are crying all around me. There is no sign that either the army is in control or that the people themselves are going to make any move away from here until they've achieved satisfaction and entered that building and got hold of the Communist Party's offices.
Just before midnight, with a yell ringing with revenge, the crowd burst past the army, invaded the building and claimed victory. The party's sign was the first target. Everything movable followed it into the street.
In you go, John. In you go, John. John's going in.
The police have arrived outside. They're joining the army and doing absolutely nothing about this.
The works of Marx, Lenin and Engels joined the posters, the files, the furniture, the doors and windows in two massive bonfires. 100 yards away, in a pool of blood, lay one communist who didn't receive army protection. He was still alive, just. Demoralized and depressed, the army conceded defeat. As they drove half-heartedly away, someone threw them a Carnation, the symbol of last year's revolution.
Later.